I'm Jane Jazrawy. I'm the CEO of CarriersEdge and the co-founder of the Best Fleets to Drive For. And I am very excited today because this is the first time that I'm allowed to host the Best Fleets podcast by myself. So if I mess up, then you'll know why. And with me, I have Geoff Topping, who is the Vice President of People and Culture at Challenger Motor Freight. So the reason that I have Geoff Topping here with me is because Challenger Motor Freight is the overall winner of the Best Fleets to Drive For in 2022. And they are the overall best fleet for large carrier. So they have, and I'm going to get you to correct me, Geoff, what we knew back when we did our interviews with you is that you had about 1,300 drivers and owner operators, correct? Or is it more now?
No, we're pretty much the same still, yeah.
And you're headquartered in Cambridge, Ontario. And I believe you've participated in Best Fleet since about 2014. So it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while for sure.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But what I wanted to talk about is for anyone who's not familiar with how a fleet actually gets to be the overall winner. I'm assuming, Geoff, that you do. You know?
We've got a couple ideas. Yeah.
So what happens is when everybody enters or when everybody is nominated for the program in a year, we go through the interview process and the scoring process, and all the driver surveys get handled. And then what happens is we score. We spend, and we're going to talk about this later in another podcast or another webinar about how we do all of this. But we do immense amounts of scoring. It takes about a week and a half to do. It takes a whole bunch of bodies to do it. And then we get the 20 top scorers, and they end up being our top 20. And then the highest, then we divide them in half. So the fleets that are in the top 20 get divided in half by size. And so the top 10 are the large fleets, and the bottom 10 are the smaller fleets. And whoever gets the highest score in each category gets to be the overall winner. And that's how you got to be the overall winner, or challenger, not you specifically.
I mean, no,
but you did have something to do with this. And what I wanted to talk a little bit about is who you are, because people may not know who you are, but I know who you are. And Geoff has actually been with Challenger on and off since 2002 in very different roles. So I think
a few different, yeah.
What did you start off as?
When I first joined Challenger in 2002, I was in the sales department. Actually, I was a national accounts director.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I thought you were in more the customer service.
No, that was one of my first jobs in trucking when I first came off the road. But,
okay. So yeah, we're going to go back to that because you used to be a driver as well. So I think it's not that unusual to have drivers be sort of part of the group. People who used to be drivers are now part of the best fleets. So they're in different roles as they progress their career. They end up as VPs or CEOs of their own companies, and then they become best fleets. And I think that drivers actually, people who used to do that job have a bit of an insight. But I want to talk about that later. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about was bobblehead Geoff. Because this is a new thing that I have not seen. So I'm going to show a picture of this right now. This is bobblehead Geoff in all his glory. And now I want to, so you have one of these.
I do. I have the twin to him right here. Yep. Bobblehead. There we go. Bobblehead Geoff.
So go put him beside you. I want to see like a side by side.
It's a pretty good, my beard's not that dark. I wish it was, but it used to be at one point. So
yeah, I think it's pretty good. So what on earth is bobblehead Geoff?
So bobblehead Geoff started, I guess it was a few months in the making, but the safety group here, along with a number of drivers, have an Instagram page that they developed called Changing Gears, and they use it for sharing safety tips and little mini flash videos on training or stuff that's going on within the company. And again, it's a fairly new Instagram page. And they came up with an idea amongst the group that they wanted to have a bobblehead Geoff that they would take on the road. And different drivers would take them to different places and send pictures into the Instagram group, or some of them are used in the Loop, our weekly e-newsletter. And so they asked if I'd be willing to do that. It was their idea, and they took a picture of me one day and had these two bobbleheads made. And the first video was actually me holding bobblehead Geoff, saying, "Well, mini-me, it's time for you to hit the road. Be safe out there and send me pictures from the road." And I gave him a little kiss on the forehead and set him down. And Nick from safety took him. And now we see pictures of him like the one you just saw that come in from various places at different customers, different states, wherever, of me looking out the window or sitting beside them while they're loading a load or whatever. So
No one else has kissed it though.
not that I'm aware of.
You have to draw a line.
Yeah, we have to draw a line. So
I love that.
Kind of a fun thing. I was kind of honored by it, actually, that they wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So they hashtag it BHG bobblehead Geoff, and he's out with a flatbedder right now. Darren from our SCD group, I know, sent me a couple of pictures earlier this week of I think I was in Ohio yesterday, but I was out in New Jersey earlier in the week. So
I love that idea. And I think that anybody who's watching this, if you have the ability to make a bobblehead of somebody, I think that is it's a copyable idea. And I want to see that in next year's questionnaire, the bobblehead. Yep. I'm not sure where you would put that information.
I don't know what category that falls.
Is it safety? Is it human resources? I don't know.
Yeah, there's no bobblehead category, so.
Should I put a bobblehead question in there for next year? Like, do you have any sort of mascot for any members of your leadership team? Oh, and did I mention that you are the vice president of people and culture at Challenger now?
Yep. So
you had, and going back to your history with Challenger, you kind of went back and forth a little bit and then ended up in 2011 was when you ended up back.
I came back to Challenger in 2011 in operations. Yeah, I was operations and sales, kind of doing a joint role. I looked after a couple of our smaller divisions that we have since amalgamated into the company. They were actually separate companies in those days, some acquisitions that we did. And then in, I guess it was 14 or so, 14, 13, somewhere in there, I moved into a new role of director of recruiting, which was a role we didn't have before. And we started having a national role as director of recruiting. And I was told that people here thought I'd be a good HR person and I should start taking some courses and get a mentor and all those kind of things. And I did that. I didn't know I wanted to work in HR. In fact, I always joke about it. I used to make fun of the HR people. So I have to take a lot of that back now. But and
do you have your chirp now?
I don't have it yet, but I'm actually working on, based on experience, I'm actually did some communications yesterday with HRPA to try and apply for my designation of the CHRE. So
excellent. That's great.
So that's a project I've got on the go for this year. So
just to keep you, if you're not busy enough.
Yeah, I needed something to do.
So. Yeah, it's kind of, there's nothing going on at Challenger. No. So were you involved in Best Fleets right from the get-go?
Yep. Yeah, right from when we started. Yeah. Well, we might have done it once before I got into that role, but I'm pretty sure it was when I started. Yeah.
Okay. Because that's what, I don't really remember any kind of Challenger Best Fleets without you. So it's, you've kind of been in the last 10 years, you kind of are synonymous with the whole Best Fleets process and Challenger. How do you feel about being, and we'll talk about your journey to getting to the overall winner. How do you feel, or how does the company feel about actually getting the overall winner status?
Oh, incredibly honored and so proud of all of our people that make it happen. It's about the people of the company. It's not about us who fill in the application and do the interview. It's about what everybody here does every day to help make our drivers successful and make our company successful. And we really believe in a people first culture. Look after the people, they'll look after the customer, and that'll look after the business. And that's kind of the motto we go on. And we did we started a journey on that a number of years ago now. We did a good to great journey was our plan to re-energize or start the evolution of our culture. And we continue to work on that, and things, you make changes and things get better. And then now that's your new standard and you feel like you dip a little bit. So you got to make the next level. And it's a journey. It's not just a short trip. It's a journey that will continue to evolve, but we're really proud of all the things we've done. I don't think we can stop. In today's world, stopping isn't an option. I mean, people are the most important part of any organization, and we need to continue to adapt for our people.
Were you, and I want to talk about that whole good to great thing in a second, but were you, because I know that you have been on that stage a number of times, were you surprised or annoyed with Jim?
No. I was actually, I mean, Jim's the leader, so it was wonderful for him to be there. I hate to use the word hope, but I always hope we're going to be the overall best fleet. And I know you've caught Garth and I before when we'd be reading the books, when we used to hand the books out before, and Garth and I would be tabulating scores. I know that's why you don't do that anymore, because of Garth and I. So
Very
I know
bad boys.
I know we are. Yeah, I know we've always been close, and I've always been congratulatory to the people that did receive it, because it makes us all better to compete and then share some of the best practices too, right? So it's a friendly competition for sure, but we're certainly glad to be holding it right now, and very proud of it. So
one of the things that was I found a little annoying with the awards presentation this year is that the people that I really wanted to have on the stage, neither of them were there. So when we knew that Challenger was the overall winner, and we can't tell you, and we can't even hint at it. So I can't say, Geoff, you should really show up this year. You should be in Vegas. I can't do that. And for the overall small fleet, it was Gardner Trucking, and Sherry has been on the stage every single year that they've been there, and didn't this year. And I was like, I can't. I want to, but I can't. It's so disappointing. But I would have loved to have you there. But
it would have been fun, but I'm sure Jim did a great job. So
he did. Yes, we had an interesting conversation with our handshake, because he was not expecting it. So he was annoyed with me because I didn't give him enough time to think of a speech.
Yeah, he's a planner. He likes to know things ahead
Sorry,
of time.
Jim, like, this is the way it happens. This is, you get what you get, but here's your trophy. That'll make you feel better.
That's right.
So tell me about the journey that you had, because you have been, in the last 10 years, you have been Challenger has been a fleet to watch. You've been on the top 20, you've been dropped off the top 20, you've been back on the top 20, and now you're the overall winner. So how do you, it's quite amazing that you have stuck with it. A lot of companies would say, I'm not doing that anymore. So what would you say about that?
I would say that's a short-sighted thing to do, because it makes you look at yourself and all the things you're doing within your organization. It makes you look internally. Especially when you've been on the top 20 and you're not on the top 20. I remember that phone call very well.
I remember that phone call too.
I remember the list came out and I phoned you and you said you were expecting this. So, but yeah, that was a bit humbling for sure. And so we had to look internally again at what are we doing and what's working and what's not working, or what's working well, and perhaps do more of that is what you sometimes need to do as well, right? So it was. But I think it's important for people to keep at it, and the information you gather and is very useful, and then it's shared with people so that they can look at how they did on their score and things like that. And it's not really about winning the award. The award is a nice recognition and cap, but it's more about all the things you're doing for your people, right? And the external auditor or recognition of it is kind of the icing on the cake, really, right? So.
Well, when you, that year, was that the year that you did the roundtables afterwards? Is that when you started the roundtables?
That's when we started the roundtables, and also started working harder on the internal recognition programs, the extra mile and the I went the distance. Yeah.
Oh, I know the extra mile. I'm not sure. Can you remind me what I went the extra distance is?
Yeah, so the extra mile is a driver monthly award that goes out, and it's peer nomination. So it can be another driver can nominate another driver, or a mechanic or office staff can nominate a driver. It's solely for driving people, so drivers or owner operators. And I went the distance as an internal one for non-driving staff. So when
Ah,
someone from a non-driving, and it can be nominated by a driver or by another internal person. So that's
that's
when
why
we
it doesn't, that's why I haven't heard of it, because it's non-driving.
non-driving.
Ah, okay. But the fact that a driver can nominate an office staff member, I think that's a really good, like, the more that you can kind of combine, not combine, but have the office and non-office roles kind of interacting and recognizing each other. I think it's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, and it's great to see every month there's, 4 or 5 come in for each program. Some months there's more than that. Some months it's hard to try and figure out who the overall winner should be. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes the recruiting and retention committee that does the extra mile one says, Geoff, we can't separate it. There's 3 here this month and they all should be. And I said, then let's give the awards to all 3. So
Is that a hint? Is that?
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, we can't do that. You have to get out to the Hall of Fame, and then you can get your the ruby, and then
Ruby.
that's how we can do multi awards. So what the other thing, and this kind of comes out of the roundtables, because what the roundtables were basically, you had meetings all the way across the country, like at all of your different terminals, and you're still doing that. And I seem to remember that when you first started them, you were basically trying to figure out what everybody thought.
Mm-hmm.
And now, why are you continuing to do them?
Just the importance of the feedback. I mean, you make changes and it's part of the evolution, not a revolution, right? So we continue to make changes, and some changes work, some don't work, and you need to stop those ones quickly and switch directions if you can on those kind of things. But just the open communication. I mean, what organization in the world doesn't strive to have better communication with the members or the employees, whatever type of organization it is. Drivers are the ultimate remote workforce. I mean, they're not in the terminals that much. It's hard to get chances to see them. So to have open phone calls, open meetings. Again, the recruiting and retention team has drivers and owner operators from all divisions on it that meet once a month, and that's a good chance to keep a pulse on what's going on. And lots of times it's just information, and I mean, it's hard, we all know that. We can do podcasts, and you can do emails, and you can do newsletters, and you can mail stuff to people's houses, and it's still hard to get in touch with everybody. So it's just about keeping the two-way communication going, really.
So I just want to talk a little bit about when something isn't going well. How do what is the process of change when you realize that say bobblehead Geoff just is failing miserably, and someone is thrown him in a toilet or something like that, and so what would be the process afterwards? Like, what would you do, or what would the company do, not you personally necessarily?
So usually we do things like that through the recruiting and retention team again. So a concern would be brought up, bobblehead Geoff, nobody likes the idea, whatever. Let's use that as an example.
Yeah.
And we would, we'd talk about it in that group, and should we try something different? Obviously that would come to the recruiting and retention group. We'd then involve the changing gears group and say, should we try something different? Should it be bobblehead Jim?
Steve.
Steve, yeah. Should we switch it up? And we might change directions then, or if it's just not working and it's something we need to abandon, we try to be real open about that and say, here was something we were trying, it wasn't that successful, we're going to try this now, right? And I think it's important to be a bit humble and willing to accept when things aren't working the best, and we need to change it, right? And sometimes it can just be a slight change that's needed to make a new program or a new piece of technology work, right? I mean, and that's why we have the I know it's one of the things you wanted to touch on, the technology group that we have. And when we're going to implement a new piece of technology that affects drivers, there's a group of drivers that have signed up to be the trial group on that. And that's a great time to try those, because what might work for us inside or for customs or for safety might not work 100% for the driver, and it's going to take more time or be more difficult for them. And we need to pivot a little bit and change how we do that. So we
yeah,
just try to.
Oh, sorry, keep going.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I was just, it was like all of the committees that you have. So some companies don't have any. And we usually try to, when we talk about best fleets, not so much during a best fleets interview or anything like that, we try to encourage committees, not just, throw a bunch of people together and then they get to meet and nothing else happens, but something more structured and something where people can actually achieve something, or have the opportunity to be heard, like what you are already talking about with recruiting and retention. And what is interesting is that a lot of companies who have recruiting and retention committees don't have drivers on it, which I think is very, you're kind of missing, there's a big gap there that could be filled. And I think that you've already talked about how important, like the useful information you get, but you have all kinds of committees. So what are some of the other ones that you have, and who's on it? Like I noticed that you said that drivers sign up to be part of the tech committee. Is it totally volunteer, or is it depends on the committee?
Most of them are totally volunteer, or we might go and ask certain people, if we know drivers that are technically savvy that might be interested in it. Because there's some drivers that wouldn't be interested in it. There's some office people that wouldn't be interested in a technical commitment. It's not something I would be real interested in being involved in. I want my technology to work, but to try new ones and help model that's not something I would be interested in. So we try and do, we'll send out
edge here.
Yeah. We'll send out stuff or messages in the loop that we're going to have, a new driver technology committee to do some trials, and people can apply or submit their names. In the case like that, we usually get, 15, 20 people. So we'll have all of them involved. On the recruiting and retention committee, again, we do a call for volunteers. And we try and switch it up every 6 months too. If once, if people, you still want to be on the committee, or would you like to take a break from the committee? And some people have taken a break and then come back, and other new people join. And again, it just helps get a good group of people to talk about different perspectives. So on the retention or recruiting and retention committee, there's people from operations, people from safety, people from training, people from HR, people from the shop. There's people from every terminal on it, and there's drivers and owner operators from every terminal. So
that's very cool. So you have all these programs, and we're not going to go through every single program that you have, because you have many. You have a school, you have an apprenticeship program that drivers go through, you have like all of your different communications offerings, and you do the roundtables. Your terminal looks amazing. If I can get some pictures, then I will show them here, because your terminal is designed a very specific way I think to include people, or to include drivers as well as regular staff. So do you were you involved in that at all, in that sort of, when you were designing or redesigning what the terminal was going to look like?
I wasn't back when we designed the terminal. I was in sales at that time, actually, but there was a group of people that were involved in that, and it was Dan, our founder and CEO, along with some people from, safety, there was people from operations, there was people from recruiting, people from maintenance, and also our IT director at the time was involved. And they traveled around to various different terminals, and I don't know all of them, but they went to various terminals in the US, companies that had built new terminals, and some in Canada, and looked at them and, kind of said, if you were going to do this again, is there anything you wouldn't do, or is there anything you would add? And that's how they came up with the ideas for it. And it's built, it is a beautiful building. We're very proud of it, for sure. It's a very much built for the drivers and the owner operators for sure. It's an open, very open concept. Drivers and owner operators can come in and they're free to walk into operations and speak with planners and dispatchers, and those are fleet managers. Those guys, I still call them dispatchers. I forget that we have different names nowadays for that. But yeah, it's built very, it has a nice driver's room. It has showers. It has laundry facilities. We have a cafeteria.
I remember being there for, I can't remember why I was there, but I remember walking into that sort of main foyer, and it was very open and glass everywhere. And basically, you know, everybody just walks in that front door, but there was tables, because there was at one point, I think it might have been to do with benefits, or there was some new program that any driver who walked in the door was stopped and basically said, look, we have this new program for you. And I think they were giving away things as well. So
Yep.
Just that area, that front area was very, very welcoming, and very much, you know, kind of felt bad that I wasn't a driver and I didn't get stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
I didn't get stuff.
Oh, we could give you some stuff.
I know I can get stuff from you. But what I was getting at before I kind of got on the track of how nice your buildings are, and also the shop area as well, because that's where I was, just that whole area, and it's very open. And now for the shop, I know that you can't actually just walk in. You have to, you can't just, you know, do whatever it is you want to do in the shop. So just to let everybody know that
Absolutely,
it was not that open, for security and safety reasons, obviously.
Safety,
But what is your favorite thing that you've done over the years? Like, what is your favorite program? What is the one that is really near and dear to you that you would talk for hours about?
The good to great journey was my favorite one. I think it had the most impact. It was a real honor to be a part of. I was the lead on it. There was an executive sponsor. One of the VPs was the executive sponsor. I was director of recruiting at the time. So basically, we knew we needed to enhance our culture and make it a better place. And Jim had just taken over as president, so that's when we were kind of, you know, really moving into the people, customer, profit type analogy. And I had great opportunity to go take some training with a consultant on how to do a discovery on culture. And then we went out and we did 41 or 45 one-on-one interviews. And then we did 25 group sessions across the country, on all different shifts, days, nights, weekends. And we had a consultant help us with it. But I was asked and lucky enough to participate in every one of them. And we did that for a reason. We wanted somebody from the company to hear what people had to say, not just the consultant. And we wanted to make sure it was someone that people weren't going to be afraid to speak their mind in front of. We wanted people to be open and honest, and I got chosen to be the person to do that. And it was, you know, we heard some good things and we heard some things that weren't so good and that we needed to address. We brought all that information back that we did in the discovery, and we worked with the consultant. It was Eagles Flight out of Guelph, a well-known people consultant. And one of their organizational behavior masters helped us boil it into themes. And then we went back out to all those places again on days, nights, weekends.
Wow.
And said, here's what you told us. Here's what we can do today. Here's what's going to be on the list for next year, the year after, and the year after. And it gained us a lot of momentum and a lot of good buy-in when we went back, and I stood up in front of everybody and made that same presentation in all those places to say, here's what you told us. And I'm putting my hand up to say, we're going to fix these, right? And some of them are going to take time. Some, like one of the biggest ones that came out was, and I remember this vividly, you do so much to train the drivers. How about some training for the non-driving staff? The Challenger's always been known for the training we put into drivers, and we hadn't invested as much time, energy, and effort in training of staff. And that's when we came out with the leadership program that we have called the CALL, the Challenger Academy of Learning for Leaders, which is a nine course program that people go through. We hired somebody to help us build that that content, but it's all Challenger branded and gets updated every year. And call number 8, cohort number 8 is on their 8th class now. So they got one more, and then we'll have a graduation for them. So we've been doing that for quite a while. That's when we started book clubs. Oddly enough, we have book clubs for managers and leaders where I pick or somebody else picks an executive summary or a book that we want to read, and then get together and talk about the theory of that book and how can we relate that to Challenger, or what parts of it shouldn't relate to Challenger, right? I mean, you can't change direction every time you read a new book, so you need to pick the parts out of it. So we really started to focus some extra work on and training and development on the non-driving staff. The other thing that was the most amazing part of it, and I remember one of the consultants' question, he always asked it this way, was, you're at the local arena, you have your typical Canadian, right? You're at the local arena, you have your Challenger jacket on or your Challenger baseball hat, and someone says, what's it like to work at Challenger? And the overwhelming response across the country in all places was, we have a great bunch of people. And the people I work with was over and over and over. And so even the things that were opportunities that we needed to work on, we had a super foundation to build on, because everybody really liked, admired, enjoyed, cared for the people they worked with. So we had and that was a pretty humbling thing for and like almost emotional at times to hear that in all those different places, that
the same thing.
People cared about the people they worked with. And so that was a great building block. So.
Well, I think that's actually a great place to end this discussion, even though I could probably go on and on and on, but people don't have time. So we are, again, I'd like to congratulate you and Challenger on your on being the overall winner. I would like to say that once, and what you've talked about over this this interview has been a real recipe for how other fleets can get to be a best fleet. The amount of work that it takes, the fact that you shouldn't give up, listen to your people, make small changes, go and tell them what they've done, and and follow up. Like, it's basically, you just outlined a recipe for how to be a best fleet. So it's been great.
Well, thanks. And I mean, we're proud of it. And the people first, like I always try and remind people, people first doesn't mean you give away everything and you make it all one-sided. People first it's about setting people up for success, providing them the training, providing them the tools, and then supporting them. And that's kind of I know that sounds very simple, and it's not quite that simple, but that's what it's really about, right?
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Geoff.
Thank you.